Ray and HB, in this conversation, we're going to talk about, now this is a little odd, other than prayer and exegetical study, other than those two vital elements of sermon preparation, what has been most helpful to you in preparing a message beyond prayer and exegetical study? HB, you thought about that one?
Yeah, I would mention several things very quickly. One is just the time factor. So I went from earlier on cramming the latter part of the week, those full days, but if an interruption happens in that midst, everything is thrown off. So a little scheduling that I'm doing a little bit throughout the week and building that up as I'm getting closer to Sunday. But it also not only guards my time better, but it gives me more time over the week to meditate on the text, to let the text get into my system, to be applying the text so that the pressure of Sunday is not weighing so heavily on me as I'm working.
When do you try to get that first draft done by, or do you think that way? Do you try to say, all right, I kind of done by now, but then I want time to percolate on that? Do you have at least an informal goal, and when you want to have the first kind of thrust of it done?
Yeah, I would like to be done Friday with it all, right, and just kind of have a Saturday and over the evening review that. Yeah. The other thing I would mention that has been a helpful thing over the years for me is, I think over the years I've started to write more, just taking good notes in my study, where I would read everything and just not put it down. And I have been benefiting from taking good notes as I am studying and being able to go back to compare and writing my messages.
Yeah. How much of that do you take into the pulpit?
My goal at this point is to take nothing but my Bible in the pulpit. But I am determined to write myself clear, yes, before I get there. Yeah. And I would say more than anything, in terms of practical preparation for preaching, right, writing myself clear, right, in terms of the truth I'm trying to communicate, the transformation I hope to see, and just the clarity of the message has been an aid to me.
I would echo that, Ray. There was a time in my life that I wrote everything and read sermons. Then there was a time I thought, well, that's not good, so I did outlines and kind of preached extemporaneously. But then I found that I wasn't really doing the hard work. I could, I was good on my feet, and I could just kind of draft an outline. I was ready to go. And then I found out I was kind of repeating myself a lot. What had worked well a few weeks ago, I ended up kind of echoing that, and I wasn't progressing in depth of thought. So I went to writing everything out, but then trying to convert it to an outline that I would take into the pulpit. So I was trying to preach freely, but having written myself clear. I love that, HB. That's really, you have any similar patterns, or what do you do?
Oh, I'm just hopelessly tied to a manuscript. I wish I weren't. HB, I would love to do what you do.
Yes, sir.
I would feel unleashed, but I haven't gotten to that level yet. But there are two things that outside prayer and exegesis that help me in sermon prep. One is just being with people, really listening. They turn in prayer requests every Sunday. I'm really struck at how candid people are. I really appreciate that. I respect that. I get all of those, as do the other leaders in the church, and it's so helpful to me to know what's really going on in people's lives. Tuesday night, Manual Theology for Men, from 7 to 9. There's a lot of interaction. I find out what these guys I love so much are really facing. So being with people is tremendous sermon preparation. And then the other one is a very sort of intimate and sharp personal discipline, and that is just honesty with myself. As I'm in this passage for Sunday morning, come on, do I really believe this? I mean, honestly. Have I really stepped inside this reality myself? Have I been comforted by this? Have I been confronted by this? So I need to be really, I don't trust idealism.
Right.
I embrace realism, starting with myself.
We're saying similar things, and you're reminding me, Ray, that when I think about beyond prayer and exegetical study, which are vital for sermon preparation. What have I learned? And you're commenting on one. It's that what I call going in through the who door, which is who needs to hear this? I'm so often thinking about what do they need to hear, which puts me in kind of that doctrinal exegetical mode, instead of thinking, all right, who needs to hear what this passage says that I know from the pastoral interaction with them? And that changes my message often to becoming, I'm going to say, simpler and deeper at the same time.
Yes, yes.
Right? So I'm going out of my theological jargon or even my exegetical acrobatics, and I'm actually thinking about, wow, if I were in the position of these people in my church, what difference would this make?
Yeah.
And so I'm not talking academically, I think I'm talking actually more spiritually as a consequence.
I believe that.
When you interested me, you said when you were with men in what I take as a small group type setting, is that right? Or a
50,
teaching
60 guys.
How do you do that without being the Bible answer man? I mean, why don't they shut down when the pastor's there?
Because I tell them what an idiot I am, and I prove it all the time. Oh, it's just a grace the Lord has given. I didn't mastermind it, and I don't cause it, and I can't control it. There's a spirit of openness, candor, and brotherly honesty about ourselves and our own weaknesses and needs and failings that is a fertile environment for discovery and newness of life. And it's very a wonderful gift the Lord has given. I want to steward it well, and I didn't get us there.
Right.
We found ourselves in those green pastures and beside those still waters, and kind of blinked and looked around. How did we get here?
Yeah.
The Lord took us there.
So HB, I'm going to reinterpret Ray, because you and I were saying part of what has helped our sermon beyond prayer and exegesis is consideration of the people that we're talking to. Ray's actually saying it's consideration of what's going on inside of me. Yeah. It's actually some of that mining of his own soul and spirit. Yeah. Has that changed some of what you do at times to think, I've got to really dive deep into me before I can talk to other people?
Yeah, absolutely. The time factor I mentioned at the beginning has helped me to just saturate my own heart and mind in the Word, to apply that truth to myself, so that you are not just cranking out these messages that are sound and applicable and helpful for others, but you have not taken the time to look in the mirror of the Scriptures for yourself. I've just found that vital. The James 1:22 through 25 is vital for us just as much as it is for those who sit under our teaching.
I love that. You mentioned you try to be done Friday. Just because of our church situation, I try to be done Thursday night because we have translators I have to give the text to. So I've got to go that route, which I love in terms of, I often find I'm ashamed of what I gave to the translators, because the more I'm thinking about it Friday, Saturday, the more I'm kind of going, oh my, I need to say that differently or deeper, or I wasn't really thinking about that. Ray, when you try to be done, or do you have even a schedule like that?
I basically prepare 2 sermons every week. Tuesday, Wednesday is my carnal, negative, anxiety-driven behavior modification sermon.
Yes.
And then it's as if the Lord says by about the end of Wednesday or early Thursday, okay, do you feel better now? Are you happy now? Okay, well, let's start the sermon preparation. And then I just do it all over again in a gospel fueled, uplifting way. So,
do you have a struggle in it at letting that sermon go before Sunday, where I have a goal to be finished, but I'm touching it until preaching time.
Oh my goodness!
I guess it's hard to just.
Or with multiple services, even between the services.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. My sermon preparation ends when I start preaching.
There you are. There you are. Well, what I hear us saying is that there's a point, not just in our lives, but even in our week, that we're thinking about preaching the sermon. Mm-hmm. And then there's a time somewhere later that we're thinking about pastoring our people out of what that sermon has taught us to. And that's interesting how we all go through all right, we thought we were done, but the Spirit wasn't done with us. And God keeps changing us as we think of His work for His people. And that's a great thing. We need to end there and say, Lord, thank you for teaching us things even as we preach. Were we not being changed, we couldn't change others. So we thank the Lord for the work of His Word and Spirit.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, thank you both.